Welcome to our farm. I'm going to give you a little tour of our composting operation. This is our 20-foot in-vessel rotating drum composting machine, and we have it set out here at the back of the farm in the area that we call the industrial zone. The team brings our weeds and used soilless mix, our food waste, and they set it here, and that way we can access it easily for composting purposes. When we are adding material to our machine, we're doing it here at the hopper, and I'm going to show you exactly how that works in a few minutes. But we open this lid. We keep a thermometer right inside our front hopper so that we can tell what kind of temperature we're pulling here at the front end. So we're at 120 degrees Fahrenheit here. That's some nice heat right here at the front of the machine where we're adding our material. And then we're going to go look at some temperatures at the back end of the machine. So we add our materials in here, and there are a series of paddles that are welded inside the machine that help all of the nitrogen and carbon materials move down as they're added to the drum. This particular model is insulated. You can see that it has this reflective covering on the outside, and there's some insulation underneath. And it just rotates on these metal wheels down here when we turn it on. The entire machine runs on one household outlet, and we added a pedal function so that we can turn it on and off with our feet while we're holding materials. So here we are at the back of the machine. This is where the compost is coming out while the machine is turning. And you can see there's a thermometer in here. This is a really long thermometer, about 5 feet long. And it's at 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So some really nice heat in there. We're ensuring that we're getting a little bit above that EPA recommendation of 131 degrees Fahrenheit. And our materials take about 21 to 28 days to pass through the machine, depending on how much material we're adding and how often. Periodically we'll put like a wiffle ball through the machine or a golf ball, and it will travel with the carbon and nitrogen materials we're adding through, and we can track how long it takes to come out the other end. The compost falls into this pile here, and this is where some secondary decomposition happens. So it's not uncommon for us to see some little bugs around the pile and working to break down the material a little bit further. And you can see that there's still some heat in here. It's 100 degrees, a little over 100 degrees. And there's some nice breaking down happening here. Now, after this sits here for about a week, we move it by tractor over to the next spot, and I'll show you what happens there. So after about a week in the secondary decomposition pile, the compost gets moved over here to this place where it's turned in the process, but with a tractor bucket. So there's a thermometer in here, and it is reading just under 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That's close to our ambient air temperature. It's a little bit cooler here today. So things are cooling down in this pile, and it's getting closer and closer to be ready for use. So we're planning to take this pile today and turn it once more, break down some of these bigger parts that are in here. We just used a whole bunch of compost today, so we don't need this for the new beds that we're making. And we'll put it in a new spot and let it sit there for about a week. Monday is our compost day. So Musa, who's our director of operations, he knows that he's going to be turning compost on Monday. So we just kind of build that into the schedule. And then we kind of address adding material almost daily. That way it doesn't stack up and get built up over time, because when that happens, it can take a long time to process through all of your weeds and dry material and get them into your machine. So we just kind of got over a hump where we were doing a lot of that because we had all of our crates from our tulip production over the winter time. So right now we're feeling really good about the spot that we're in terms of the amount of green waste coming in from weeding daily, and also from our food waste collection. So let's go have a look at how we add material to the machine. Okay, so we're back at the front of the machine, and I'm going to show you how we add new material to our machine. Before we're able to do that, we need to allow this kind of like soilless mix cap. So this was some used tulip material. We were growing a lot of tulips in crates over the winter time, and one concern for flower farmers is the fusarium that's carried on tulips. We want to make sure you know, that's cooked out through our process. So that's one of the reasons that we're really careful in monitoring our temperatures. So I'm going to turn the machine on here with this foot pedal, and we're going to start to see things get pulled down inside. It might take a few minutes, so we'll probably zoom ahead so you can see this process. So this soilless mix, or this dry medium that is on top, it's serving a nice purpose. It's actually capping things off and holding heat inside the drum. So it's just going to take a moment or two for us to push it through, and then we'll add our new content. Okay, so we're here at the front of the hopper. I'm going to press on the pedal here so you can see some of the action of the rotating drum. The paddles that are welded inside are pulling the material in, so that's kind of nice. We'll also use a small shovel or a hoe to help compress our contents as we're putting it in and make sure that we don't have any big air pockets in there. So our current recipe, plane going over, of course, our current recipe is about 1 part green waste, so that might be weeds like this that come right out of the field, or food waste. So we collect food waste at our roadside stand, and that's in here. I'm scared to see what we're going to find in there. So there's about a half a bucket of food waste in there. And then to every 1 part of green waste or food waste, we put in 2 parts of brown carbon-rich material. So that can be dried weeds, things like sunflower stalks. It can be used peat material that's pretty inert. So that's about our recipe. And then we'll also wash out our food waste buckets and pour that wash water, that rinse water, into the machine too, to make sure that there's lots of good moisture in there. So let's go ahead and add some of this green material. You can see here in this bucket there's also a bunch of Lisianthus plants with fusarium wilt. Those are going in too. We're going to kill the fusarium. Ooh. Right. Food waste in there. Someone put in a paper towel. I'm just going to pull that out. We keep a trash bucket nearby so that if there's any plastic bags or anything that comes in with our food waste, we can discard of that. We do get the compostable baggies that come through once in a while. They take about 2 trips through the machine to actually break down. So for our customers, we encourage them not to use those baggies. Right, so here's some dried material now. In. Styrofoam trash. A little more. Now I'm going to press this down. I'm going to turn on the machine and press this down with a small shovel and get it moving through so that I can add the rest of my dried material and make sure that my ratio is right. I'm still about halfway through adding my dry material, and I'm just going to add this rinse water from the food waste bucket to add a little bit more moisture. And now the rest of the dried material. So I put in 1 more used crate of peat mix that tulips were growing in last winter. Here are a bunch of dried stems, tulip bulbs, other weeds that have just dried out, so they aren't nitrogen rich anymore. Now they're more carbon material. And I'm going to help this get back through and probably add another bucket wash rinse water in here to add some moisture. And then we'll cap off with some soilless mix from another one of our tulip crates. So we're really working through that material. Our goal is to not be buying in or using any of that peat-based material in the future. So we're making our clean compost material, and we also hope to be forcing bulbs in it for our winter crate successions. So that's what's happening now. Some other materials that you can use for carbon if you don't have a lot of dried material around, you can use wood chips. We're interested in investigating how we might be able to repurpose cardboard if we can chip it up and use that as a carbon material in our machine. Yeah, so I think that's about it. I'm going to put this in and then we'll cap off and start this process going again for today. There isn't an exact recipe for any given day here at the farm. It really depends on the types of materials that we're putting in. So for the kinds of things that we're trying to process now, this ratio of 1 part nitrogen-rich materials, green waste, to 2 parts carbon, and then some capping off with some of our extra peat material that we're trying to process, seems to be about the right ratio for us. And then we also add a little bit of water to maintain some nice moisture in there. So we're getting the temperatures that we want, but we're always making adjustments to our recipe depending upon what's coming out of the field or what needs to be processed, or what we're collecting at the road or from customers in terms of food waste. So this has been a wonderful learning experience for us. We're still learning each day how to make things better and smoother, but we're really happy with the temperatures that we're getting and the material that we're producing. If you're putting only food waste into your machine, you're going to want to offset this rich, wet material with something that's very dry and absorbent. So in the wintertime, you know, if we're collecting a lot of food waste and we have less of our own green material to put in our machine, we mix this with wood pellets. So the kind of wood pellets that you buy for a pellet stove in the wintertime. We buy them by the pallet, and it's only 1/4 by volume wood chips to however much food waste that you're putting in. So it's not very much, and that those pellets break down right away and they start absorbing, going to work on your food waste. So here at the back of the machine, you can see how the compost material falls out automatically as the drum is rotating. So while it's rotating, we're adding generally the new material on the front, and it's being pushed by those paddles down through the drum. It's about half as much material coming out on this end as what's going in on the front end. So in terms of the amount, you can think of it that way, the amount of compost that comes out after those primary decomposition processes happen.